Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to help to educate you so that you feel more comfortable and confident in investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever felt like you struggled through navigating through really challenging times and you wanted to be able to get to a better business and life, then this is absolutely the conversation that you're going to want to listen to all the way to the very end. Because today's guest is going to be able to talk to us about many of the things that she has learned over the last 25 years as a business owner, as a teacher, as a consultant, a strategist, an international best-selling author of the book Go For It, A Woman's Journey to Perseverance, and the co-founder of the Creating Wealth for Women, as well as the host of the podcast and radio show, Go For It. Well, I'd like to welcome to today's show, Jo Hausman.
Thank you, Billy. Thanks for having me on today.
Hey, you know what, Jo? I am, as we talked about this before, we're still getting started, so fumbling through a couple things. And I'm really excited to have you here because you're fantastic. Every time I've seen you in public, for those of you that are also watching on the video, you just emit so much energy, enthusiasm, and it's a lot of fun for me to welcome you onto today's show.
Well, thank you. Same with you, Billy. It's always a pleasure, and I'm so glad you asked me to be on today because I'm excited to share what I know and what I've learned through all these years of trials and tribulations, and also wonderful things too. So.
Awesome. And you know what? One thing, because we're here amongst friends, that I know that in the beginning, we just talked about your book. And I believe that I did not say the tagline properly, but because we're amongst friends here, could you do us a favor, especially for those of you that are watching? I think you may have something that you could show us, and you can actually talk to us about Go For It and give the right tagline, please.
Yes. So it's actually Go For It, A Woman's Guide to Perseverance. So there it is right there.
Fantastic.
And I kind of look like the same person. I mean, I don't know.
Yes,
but
you do.
This was published in January of 16, and you can find it on Amazon or on my website, johausman.com as well. So yeah, and then Fantastic. That's my son on the back.
Fantastic. Cody. Awesome. So that was Cody. And if you're not watching us on video, you should be watching us on the video. So check us out in the link anyway.
Yes.
So listen, Jo, thank you for that. And also the other thing, I love connecting us with different parts of the United States. Can you help us understand what city are you in today?
Yes, so I'm actually in Brandon, South Dakota, which is right by Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And if you've never heard of South Dakota before, think of the Black Hills or Mount Rushmore. So Mount Rushmore is in my state, but that's on the opposite side of the state from where I'm at. So I always tell people Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay, so you're near Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And then also, Jo, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Well, yesterday was Mother's Day. So for me, just being a mom is the most positive thing that's ever happened to me. But can I say two positive things? So
yes, you can.
One positive thing is I got to spend time with my mom, plus I got to FaceTime with my son. And that is always just phenomenal. So yes.
Fantastic. So thank you for sharing that goodness with us. And listen, so we've had a chance I've said at a really high level some of the things that you've done, but can you give us a better idea of some of the things that you've done, some of the things that have gone on in your life to get you to this point in your journey, Jo?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for asking that too. Way back in my 20s, I was married real young, right out of college, and then divorced at a real young age. So I was a single mom with my son, Cody. And that really led me to perseverance. That really led me to, I wanted better for us. So, and just through that whole journey, I started reading books and I started listening to CDs and, audio cassettes, if you can believe those were still around at that time, but they were. And that just made me want to be a better person. And just through all that journey, and then I married again when I was 32 or so, 33. And I knew, we started on the journey of we wanted passive income because both of us knew that passive income was the way to go. So we started several different businesses along with some real estate investing. And through this whole experience of those last 20 years or so, I kept that going. And even no matter what happened, during the 2008 crash and everything else that went on, you keep that going. So it's always been in the forefront and also in the back of my mind that was just something I was going to keep going with.
All right. Fantastic. So you knew early on that you wanted to have passive investments as something that was a part of your life and part of your lifestyle. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of those different passive investments, what they looked like, or some of those different businesses that were generating passive income for you so that we can continue on this journey.
Sure. Yeah. So back in the early 2000s, when I had met my husband, we started going into network marketing companies. And I had actually started one also back when I was in my 20s and did pretty well with it. And then when him and I got together, we started another one, and I was working a full-time job. We were both working full-time jobs. And I lived an hour, because we moved out into the country in Colorado. And so I was living an hour away from where I worked. And it just drove me crazy to have to drive an hour to work and then an hour home too. And so we started with a network marketing company. And I grew to the point that I was able to go part-time. And then I was eventually just going to quit it altogether because the income was going so well. Well, then some family stuff was happening, and we moved back here to South Dakota. And that's where it kind of took a back seat because family stuff came first. But I always knew that I loved that passive income, and I knew that I wanted to work from home because I loved working from home. The internet was born, the internet was going out there. So then in 2005, I started my own virtual assistant business. And I knew then that was my ticket to being able to stay home with my son and just being able to have that income coming in. And eventually what was happening is it grew so fast that I had 10 virtual assistants working for me. So that I didn't have to do all the work. I was still overseeing everything, but then the passive income was still coming in because I was letting them do the work and I was overseeing all the work. So it actually worked out really good. Unfortunately, during that time, my husband got sick, which I didn't expect at all. Plus I was raising my son. So it's kind of that sandwich generation, because then also my mom was needing some help. Now, thankfully, she's still alive and healthy and everything. But unfortunately, my husband did pass away in 2010, whereas my son also graduated high school in 2010 and went off to college. So then after all that went down, I really had to learn how to build myself up again, because my husband and I had even started real estate investing in 2004. And then we had several houses. And then when the crash came in 2008, 2009, we sold those, plus his health was declining. And so we sold those. And after I kind of picked myself up and picked up the pieces after all that, because you never marry somebody thinking that life will cut short. And so in 2012, I decided to start investing again for myself, but not also for myself, but also for future generations, my son and eventually his family. And that's really where it all started again for me, and doing it basically as solo entrepreneur. But I tell you what, having that passive income come in is really great. And I would recommend it to everybody. And that's why I love helping women. I've been helping women start businesses for years, because when I started my virtual assistant business, social media was non-existent. It didn't come into existence until about 2008, 2007. And so it's really about help. And all these people were coming to me going, how do I start a virtual assistant business? So I took that knowledge, and I've been helping people, women especially, start businesses. And now Sonia and I started Women Creating Wealth Together. And we now help women invest in real estate. And it is so fulfilling. And the education part of it is also so fulfilling. So that's really where my life journey is now. And being an investor again since 2012 on my own this time has just been, it's just been great.
So, there's a couple things I'd love to unpack from that part of the conversation. And, life happens to everyone. Mm-hmm. And you sharing that story with us is something that, I've personally gone through in terms of helping or being there for friends that have lost spouses. It's happened also too with my wife when with my wife's parents. My mother-in-law lost lost her husband. And so being able to understand and go through that, you realize that being able to have a strong family unit, having other people there that can provide that love and care for you in those challenging times is something that's absolutely key. And so the fact that you're sharing that with us and also helping understand that, yes, this is part of life, and you can also help others through going through these types of situations.
Right.
And so thank you for sharing that. There's also one of the things that you started talking about, and I was just going through and I was looking up some information, and I read an article on Bigger Pockets, and they talked about, if we look at the real estate investor base, roughly 30 or only 30% of that investor base is female. However, 91% of the investment decisions around real estate are influenced by women.
Yep.
So I found that to be staggering.
Yeah.
And I know that it is something that you've already talked about just now when you have as a co-founder of Creating Wealth for Women, yourself and Sonia, who's also been on the show.
Good.
Can I help us understand, what is the driver, this passion that you have for going out and to continuing to help educate women and seeing real estate as one of the vehicles that can be helpful as well?
Being somebody who's been divorced and now widowed, I know both aspects of it. And when I was on a speaking tour for the book that I showed a little bit ago, I've met so many women who are stuck. So many women who don't know what the next step is. And be it they're married, be it they're single, whatever the case may be. But so I talked to them. I said, have you ever thought about real estate investing? And to them, the ones I've spoken to, that's a big step because, they don't want to be landlords. They don't want to, having to deal with all by themselves. But I said, but what if, what if you went in with others on a deal? Or what if, you did it by yourself and then, now you can do it? Because when I went out, bought my first deal by myself, I was scared to death. I thought, what am I getting myself into? Because now I don't have anybody to help. But yet in reality, I did. Because what I did was I got surrounded with people who knew what they were doing. I surrounded myself with people who could help me in case I needed help. One of my investments was a mini storage. Well, I didn't know the first thing about mini storage. I thought, oh, this is pretty easy. I can do this, But then, doors. Now, I didn't have any electricity or anything like that. So, and it was in a town about an hour away from me. But what happened is that community kind of came together and helped me in case there was a problem. My renters helped me in case there was a problem because I treated them with respect. So in turn, they treated me with respect. And that really is what I found is key to having tenants and, being a landlord, so to speak, but also working with other people is you really have to show that mutual respect for them. And as long as you do that, they're willing to help you out. And so that's why I teach women and men too. If you have mutual respect for people, they will help you. And even though, but you're never going to know until you jump in and do your first deal. And once I did my first deal by myself, I was hooked. I'm like, all right, I was on to the next deal and the next one and the next one. And I'm constantly looking for different investments.
Wow. Lot to unpack there. And there was one thing that it makes me actually think I'm in the midst of reading a book called The Power of Habit. And it talks about the group. And when you're working with groups or being surrounded by groups, just the fact that can help to create that flywheel effect, and so that you're creating routines and you're surrounded by those that can help you. So as you talk about groups and thinking specifically creating wealth for women, it is another place to be able to go to continue to share, educate, and learn and grow together. Mm-hmm. Also, you made me think of, I know that there's something that you really feel strongly about, and it's the whole concept of the importance of laughing while you learn. right?
Yes.
Laughing while you learn, and knowing you that what I do know about you, it's something that you live by. I guess help us understand, like, where's that come from? I love it because it's contagious, but help us understand.
People have asked me that before, and I really don't know. I will tell you though, I grew up with brothers, and I think the brothers that, like pick at you, and if you let it bother you, they're just gonna like be all over it. But if you don't let it bother you and you just laugh at them, then they just kind of leave you alone. And I've always had a very kind of relaxed attitude, but I'm also a go get it done. That's why my book is Go For It, because when I was, the publisher asked me, what's a phrase you always say? I always say, just go for it. Well, that's always been my attitude toward life. If I want something, I go for it. And my brothers give me grief today. They're like, we should have picked on you harder when you were younger. But it really is, being able to laugh and being able to just hold life kind of lightheartedly. Because I know when stress gets to me and when things start happening, like the old body might start shutting down, because I'm also a big proponent of exercise and getting the mind clear and, meditating and journaling and all that stuff. So it's really getting back into yourself, because if you don't, all the stresses of life are going to come at you, and you're going to not be able to sleep at night. You're going to have a lot of physical pain and physical digestive issues, whatever the case may be. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. And unfortunately, usually there's not a pill to fix it. So really, when you can work on yourself and being able to just smile through life, it really is a totally different persona. And back in my early 30s, I learned that being positive, staying positive through situations can really help you persevere through life. And I really take that to heart. And, even when all the stress was coming at me with my husband and my business and, everything, all that, I just said, bring it on, bring it on. I mean, what else can happen? Well, of course, probably not say that, and then I went and jumped on 8 years of being on city council, because I figured, what the heck, and that was really a strong point for me too, because I learned to hear other people's views. I was able to learn to listen to other people. So every experience you go through in life, we learn.
I think that's a lot of really focusing on being able to learn through other people, also be able to think about learning as you laugh. And this is one of the things that I'm going to, with your permission, add to my repertoire to be able to pass forward to other people. Because I saw that, I heard that, and I was like, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Absolutely.
You've mentioned being able to have your mental wellness, your physical wellness, and just realizing where we are right now in this whole COVID situation. Like, what are some of the things that you've been doing, Joe, to stay mentally and physically aware, at the top of your game in what could be perceived as a difficult time?
Well, I have learned I love exercising. So my place where I exercise closed down. Then they were doing it online, and I was finding that I really wasn't into it online. I'm like, this isn't really my gig. So ironically enough, I used to never like walking by myself. If I was outside walking, I wanted somebody to walk with, which happened for a while, but then we kind of, started separating a little bit, just because of the fact of the COVID was getting more and more advanced. Mm-hmm. And I started learning that it's okay to walk by myself. It's okay to go out, and a lot of times I go for an hour walk, and I put my headphones in, I listen to a podcast, and away I go. I don't really pay attention to what's around me. I mean, I do, but I don't. And I just get into my zone and I just start walking. Another thing is, and I've been doing this for quite a few years now, but I get up early. I get up between 5 and 5:30, and I start reading a spiritual book, a business book, and just all that to really get my mind straight for the day. And then I write out my list and goals for the day and just get my mind straight about what I need to do for the day. And then I get my exercise in, and away I go.
Awesome. So I guess at the end of the day, you have a clear structure. You know what you're going to be doing. You get up first thing in the morning. You have your process. You do your 5 to 5:30. You set your goals, and you just have time for yourself. And you're making sure that you get your exercise in.
Yes, because during the day and at night, there seems to be a lot of Zoom webinars or virtual events. And some days I just have to say no more. I can't do any more Zoom events. Because after a while, because I've been virtual since 2005. And after a while, I just have to say, okay, cut it off, or go for a walk, go for a bike ride, whatever the case may be. Or just sit and, I don't like to watch a lot of TV. That's not something that I enjoy as much. But sometimes it just, at night, have a clear mind, clear focus. What did I accomplish today? What do I need to accomplish tomorrow? And if I don't do that, what I find is that the whole day gets away from me. Like, I'll be get to 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, what did I get done today? And I'm just like, oh, Joe, you got to get back on track tomorrow. So I really have to keep myself focused. And being a solo entrepreneur, that's really sometimes hard to do because you get a lot of distractions. But during this whole COVID thing, honestly, I've been more focused than I have been in a long time. So to me, it's been a good thing.
I think there's kind of two camps. It's if you're there and you're able to focus and get things done, you get a lot. And when you have a house full of people and you're this and that, there's a lot going on. And I also understand what you're talking about for the Zoom sessions, the early mornings or the late nights. So
yes, exactly.
So listen, Joe, and I know there's so many things like we could keep going on and talking forever and ever and ever. And I want to do that. And at the same time, I know that our time is limited. So, but before we wrap up any show, I always love to be able to ask at least our final 3 questions. But I never ask those questions, Joe, unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask the questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready. All right. Bring them on.
Perfect. So, Joe, the first question is, what is your favorite European city, either that's on your bucket list or that you visited already?
Well, because I like to go outside the boundaries a little bit. There's actually 2. I visited Ireland a year and a half ago. Absolutely love, love, love Ireland. It's just gorgeous. So Dublin and all of Ireland. But also I really want to visit Budapest, Hungary. I don't know why I have this fascination with Budapest, Hungary. And I interviewed a guy one time from there. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I've interviewed people from all over the world, but Budapest, Hungary is one of them. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's those are both Dublin and Budapest are wonderful, beautiful cities, especially in the summertime. Another thing. So thanks for that. Second question. I'm going to guess that you've probably made 1 or 2 mistakes in your life, probably 1 or 2, because you're successful. And so the fact that you are successful means that you made those 1 or 2 mistakes. Really would be interested in you sharing, I guess, a lesson that would be relevant, important for someone moving forward. What lesson would you share with someone else?
I'm going to tell you the one important lesson I learned is know your numbers. Because if you don't know your numbers, they will eat you alive. And back when I was running my virtual assistant business, at the beginning of it, people would be like, well, what's your income? And, what's your blah, blah, blah. And I talked to a lot of bookkeepers and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just, I'm making money. That's all I care about. And they said, Russell Gray says, know your numbers or else I can't remember his exact quote.
Tell you what to do.
Yeah. And it took me early on and until all of a sudden I seen a decrease and I sat down to the bookkeeper and she said, see, here you go. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and I talked to a business owner one time, she goes, Joe, that's all I do is look at numbers all day long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to do this. But in reality, that's exactly what I had to do. And once I did that, my business exploded. So always, always, always know your numbers because it almost ruined me when I didn't know my numbers. So there you go.
Fantastic. So know your numbers. That's the lesson, life lesson passed forward. Thanks, Joe. And then the last question is related to feeding our brains. So we know that you are an international best-selling author and would love for you to recommend another book that you think will add value to our audience.
Yes, absolutely. The number 1 book that we read back in the early 2000s was, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that book changed my life. And from that book, I learned really about network marketing and just owning your own business, but also real estate investing. And I still, probably a year or so ago, I went and grabbed that book again and I read it again. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've read that book. But sometimes I just need that refresher. But that's a book that really set the course for me and also my late husband, but set the course for us for real estate investing and business, being in business.
All right. Fantastic. So there's another vote for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And yes, it's one of those I guess that's why it's the number 1 best-selling personal finance book of all time. So
absolutely.
many lessons and evergreen lessons. So Joe, you've taken us through your life. You've shared, helping us understand why you have such a passion for going out to help many people around the globe to build businesses, specifically also helping women to become more educated, feel confident and comfortable moving forward and having control over their financial lives, and something that you're actively taking, not just words, but you're putting your labor behind that as well to connect with people around the globe. I know that I love being able to talk to you because I always learn something every single time I have an interaction with you. And I'm sure that every single person that's listening and watching us wants to know, how in the world do I get in touch with you, Joe? Because I have a couple of things that I need to talk about. So would you please help us, Joe? What is the best way for our audience to contact you and be able to connect with you?
Sure. So you can go, my website is johausman.com. And what I always say, I'm the female Joe, so that's J-O. So on johausman.com or on email, joe@johausman.com. And it's pretty easy. And I respond to all emails. So yeah, joe@johausman.com or my website, or I'm all over social media as well.
Yes,
Joe Hausman, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all over there.
Yes, you
LinkedIn.
Are. And we're also going to include it in the show notes, but just for everyone, if you're already on your phone or in front of your laptop, it's Hausman, Hausman.
Yep. HAU, and then S as in Sam, MAN. That's right. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. So, Joe, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here on the show and sharing all of your knowledge, experience with all of our audience. It's greatly appreciated. And also for the Going Long audience, as we're continuing to grow our audience, I'm going to ask you to be an active participant in our growth. So why don't you go out and have you go out and share at least with 2 or 3 other people, because that would be great.
You know it.
Fantastic. And listen, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I am really looking forward to welcoming you back on the next episode, and go out and make it a great day. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.